Mr. Irrelevant 2022 with the 262nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy.
And Brock Purdy was warming up, Greg, and then it looks like he's saying here that he can't throw, he can't do it.
Brock Purdy might be one of the best quarterbacks in the entire
league.
He is the real deal. And at some point, it's not a fairy tale story about Mr. Irrelevant. Gets the elbow injury, comes back, and he's even better.
Brock Purdy, drafted with the last pick of the 2022 NFL Draft to the San Francisco 49ers. His story is unlike anything we have seen in the NFL before, so let's start from the beginning. Purdy is a 23-year-old who was drafted out of Iowa State University. He stands at 6 foot 1 inches tall and 220 pounds. These aren't measurables that exactly jump out to anyone, and this may be what led him to being the final pick in the draft. Scouts said he didn't have the strongest arm and needed to improve his accuracy. Just 1 year prior, San Francisco had drafted what was supposed to be their franchise quarterback.
With the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Trey Lance.
That quarterback is Trey Lance. The 49ers gave up a king's ransom of draft picks to acquire Lance. So it wasn't a big threat when they picked up another quarterback with the last pick of the following draft, right? After all, Mr. Irrelevant has always been a running joke since everyone knows they never work out. The 2022 season had begun. Brock Purdy was still on the roster behind not only Trey Lance, but also Jimmy Garoppolo. San Francisco had kept Jimmy Garoppolo around due to some continued skepticism about Lance. Because of injuries to other quarterbacks on the roster, Purdy would see his first real action in Week 13 of that season against the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. He didn't just rise up to the occasion in this game, he came firing out of a cannon, leading the 49ers to a 35-7 victory. This was not a fluke. The success continued like this throughout the duration of the season. Talking heads and sports pundits continued to peg Brock as a system quarterback who was just along for the ride. Needless to say, he was receiving no love after continuing to win game after game, and if you didn't watch closely, you may have agreed with them. For some, it was clear what he was doing. He was doing something special. He was hitting all of the right reads, routes for his wide receivers were allowed to develop, and he found them. That's not to say there were no struggles, as there is with every young quarterback. Some passes would fly a little long. Still, he would correct and continue to play well, which might be an understatement considering they were cruising on their way to the conference championship. This was the fateful day that Purdy injured his elbow while attempting to make an in-game pass, ending his season. Statistically, in 2022, he had nearly 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He also ended with a 107.3 passer rating. I ask again, does that sound like someone who is just a system quarterback to you? The 2023 season started off with more fireworks. Brock Purdy was coming off a surgery in an attempt to fix the injury in his elbow. He managed to make it back in time for the start of the season. You wouldn't even have known he had a big injury to end the prior season. Remember that the 49ers traded that ransom for Trey Lance? It turns out they believe in Brock Purdy so much that they traded Lance to the Cowboys. They sent him packing and got almost nothing in return compared to what they gave up for him. This becomes even more spectacular since teams will usually hold on to a player they drafted early or gave up a lot of capital to get just to attempt to prove a point or save their pride. Instead, they decided to move off their draft mistake and start the better quarterback. At the time of this recording, Purdy has over 1,200 passing yards, 9 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, along with a rating over 123. He has also led the team to a 5-0 start. That makes him 10-0 in the regular season starts he's had, and undefeated in the playoff games where he didn't get injured. Yes, he will eventually lose a game. It is unreasonable and unrealistic to believe that he will continue to remain undefeated for the remainder of the 2023 season. With that said, he has the intangibles of a 5 to 8 year veteran in this league. His pocket presence is impressive and reads the field as if he has been playing for years. No stage is too big for him. It could be a noon game or a primetime playoff game. He plays with the same confidence and poise in both situations. The style reminds me of a cross between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes there's gunslingers showing, like Favre, and other times it is a surgical breakdown of the opposing team's defense, much like Rodgers. Anyone who says he's a system quarterback is simply not watching him play. Purdy is becoming elite right before our eyes. Just watch and enjoy the ride. The 49ers have found their franchise quarterback. As long as he stays healthy, the sky's the limit. We will be looking back in 5 to 10 years and still be able to talk about how this has been the most unlikely of outcomes. From Mr. Irrelevant to well on his way to becoming elite.